Hey Bob, why are you on top of your RV today? Well, because I fucked up. If you're like me and you then we need to replace this. Oops. Okay, we're inside the RV. First thing we need to do is we need to take this thing here completely out. That's the roll uppy downy handle on the inside in the master bedroom. That's going to come out, and then a new piece will go in there because the new one that I'm putting in doesn't roll up and down. It's the King Jack antenna. So I'll have links in the description below to where you can get those on Amazon. I'll have all the parts that I bought so you know exactly what you need. And I got the good one that's got the signal meter on the inside here that'll be up on the roof, and then I'll be able to see when I'm twisting the antenna where my signals are, and I don't have to pull out my phone and do the dance and search and what have you to see what direction they're in. So let's get that part off, and then we'll go back on the roof because I think that's where we're going to need to be next. Okay, so you get a better look at these parts. Not that it really matters because they're going away, but here's your knob handle with your Allen key set screw, your spring that needs to come out, the collar here, and then the beauty ring. It's supposed to have 4 screws in it, but mine only had 2. Okay, so at this point I've only brought a couple things up here to work on this scraper. What you want to do is you want to get all this sealant off, and you want to take your time with this because what you don't want to do is damage your roof, because then you're going to cause yourself a bigger problem than you already have. So take the scraper, get some of this stuff off of here, and then I'll start working on the screws, take this whole piece of thing off, and we'll get back to you. But you can watch a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so this junk is coming off. Here's a tip for you. Make sure that you leave this part up high enough to where you can move it around and it's not locked into the cradle in the back side here, because if you can't move it around, it makes it a little hard to get the putty off the back side. So let's continue. Okay, as you can see, I got all the crap off from around all the way around the edges. I didn't get it off of the screws just yet, but I did check one back here, and what I have is a Phillips screw. So I think that's all I'm going to wind up doing for today, because I've got other things that I need to accomplish. So I'll be back up here tomorrow and I'll get those screws out, get that piece off, and we'll continue. Okay guys, so I warmed up a little bit, and I had to run to the hardware store to get a couple of things for this project, one of which was the hole saw, 2 1/4 inch hole saw. They said that you needed in your roof. The hole that was existing was not near large enough, so I had to go down and get that. I'm out here in the driveway at the moment, and I've got a spare block of wood, melamine, to pilot, so to speak, a hole. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in this and then place it over the existing hole, because that drill bit is not going to be able to catch anything. So if I try and drill into the existing hole, the bit's going to jump around, it's going to rip up stuff. The other thing that this melamine is going to do, with having that pre-existing hole in the melamine, it's going to keep the roof material from ripping, hopefully. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw that down. It's going to hold the roof material nice and tight to the sheathing underneath it. So that's what we're getting ready to do now. Okay guys, so what it is, it's a simple process here. We're going to take a clamp and clamp our board to the table, and then we're going to drill off of the table so we don't drill into the table. Here we go. And the camera's going to bounce around a little bit. I'm sorry, it is what it is. It's just how it is. And battery. Standby. Okay, new battery on board. Let's get back to it. Okay, well, that's all there is to it. Now our board is prepped for tomorrow's work. We've got our hole in there ready to go. Alright guys, so we're back up here on our roof with our hole in the roof right here. Not sure if you can see that or not, but we've got our melamine template that we made yesterday to cut the hole larger, because if you'll recall that we need a 2 1/4 inch hole, and the hole in here is maybe an inch at most, maybe 3/4. That's probably more like it, it's 3/4. So we need to enlarge that hole for the shaft that goes down through the roof into the ceiling for the adjustment bar. So that's what we're about to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we've got our hole here. We're going to kind of gauge where we want our new hole to be. Put our template over there, and we're going to screw down into the roof, because it really doesn't matter, because this is going to be protected by the cover. So we don't want that template to move at all while we're drilling through. So now we're going to take our hole saw and go right through. Okay, so we've got our hole cut out, and you can see that it did real nice on cutting that roof material as well. So we're not going to have any rips when we pull this other portion back up. And you can see how nice that hole is. Now we don't need this anymore, so. But see how nice that hole is? Just a nice edge, no rips in the material, and we didn't wallow it out or anything. So, all right, time to move on to the next step. Okay, so my next step is going to be attaching the base plate to the antenna itself with some screws and nuts that they provided. I've already gone through and tested. I attached all the cables, ran a test on the TV to make sure that it's picking up stations and that we're all good to go, because what I didn't want to do was get all my sealant on here and then find out I had a problem. So I ran through a test on that real quick. You guys really didn't need to see that, because I mean, it's just a test, just to make sure it's working. So let's get these screws and this base plate mounted to the antenna. Okay, so with the screws mounted, or the base mounted to the antenna, they say that you need to put a little bit of the self-leveling sealant right in around this here. They say to be careful that you don't get it on the shaft, because that'll clog up the works. So we just want a little bit in here, so it'll seal off to the roof. And we're also going to put some of that butyl tape all around to make sure that it gets a nice good adhesion as well. I'm going to start with the butyl tape. What I plan on doing is just running one piece all across the edge here. Okay, and that doesn't have to be pretty because nobody but you is going to see it. So now we're going to cut our tip off the self-leveling adhesive and put a little bead around in here to seal that off so no water gets down into the roof. And if you haven't used a caulk gun before, what you do is you cut the tip off. Kind of like that. And then there's a little rod to break the seal, because there's a seal down right here. So you want to take your little rod, take your tube, jam it down in there, and you'll hear it, and you'll see some goop on your rod there. And it's probably a good idea to wear gloves because you could get it all over your hands, but you know, one of those things. So we'll just put a little bit in here. Turn it so we can get to that cable. Get a nice amount in there. And that's it. We're ready to go ahead and mount this on the roof. Get our scraper out of the way. You want to drop that shaft down so you can get to it from the inside. And then we'll just take it, kind of get it where we think it belongs. Give it a little press down so it stays in place. Alright, with that, let's go on inside and get all that hooked up before we come back and put some more leveling or self-leveling sealant on all this. And we're going to do the screws. I'm going to do all the way around the base of the antenna here, because even though we've got it sealed on the inside, I still don't want any water to get on the inside to have the potential of getting through whatever we sealed there, because the cables, you're not going to get a perfect seal, but I'm going to do that as an extra additive measure. And then we'll seal around the total edge here as well. So let's go inside, get the inside hooked up, and then we'll come back up here. Alright guys, so we're back inside and we've got our shaft and our cable in through our hole right here. This is where our turning device is going to go. And we've got the cable from behind our TV with the amplifier. That goes up into the antenna upstairs. I should have showed you that. But there's a splitter, and it goes into the antenna, and then this cable comes out of the antenna into our little box here, and that's what gives it the power to show us our signal. So you've got to have the amp on behind your TV for this to get power to show you how much signal you've got. So we're going to hook that wire up here, and you've got a power switch here to, you know, turn off and on. It's not really going to affect, I don't believe it affects the signal when you turn it off, but I think that's just to tell you where your signal is. So once you get it set, it's got little notches in here like a gear. So this will stop in position. You've actually got to push this little button here to get it to twist, and then it locks into place, or you can ratchet it like that. Scare the neighbors, scare the dead. So let's get this thing mounted and get it up, and we'll go from there. Your wire is going to go through this front hole, and then like I said, it attaches to that little port there. And doing this above your head and in a tight space with big hands is a blast, let me tell you. thing is extremely hard to get started. I had problems getting it started earlier when I was doing the test because it had to be hooked up so I could test it, make sure it all worked. Okay, we got it started now. Alright, so that's going to take me a second to get that tightened down. I'm going to use a pair of pliers when I get to the point where it's almost tight. Use a pair of pliers and tighten it down real good, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so that's got it tightened down real good. I took a pair of pliers and snugged that down so it doesn't have a loose connection. Loose connection, you lose signal. So you want to make sure everything's good and tight. Upstairs here, if you're having problems, even after you get this done, you may want to pull your box behind your TV. Make sure all those connections are tight. If you've got a control panel on the outside of your RV where the satellite connections are, you might want to pull that apart. Make sure those are tight as well. Anywhere there's a connection to the outside, there's a connection behind. So you want to pull that panel off, that little box, pull it off, make sure those are all tight. That can solve some problems too if you're just replacing your antenna because you think you have problems with your antenna. Before you spend the money, check all those connections and make sure you're good to go. If not, if you're still having problems with your antenna, it could be your antenna. If you did what I did and smashed your antenna on a TV or a tree, then yeah, the antenna needs to be replaced. So let me zoom in here and you can see there's going to be some holes where we're going to put some screws in here. There's one here, there's one on the opposite side, there's one there, there's one here. And that's going to actually mount it up to the ceiling. So let's get that done. You're going to want to make sure you got your shaft right through there. And you may not want to do this with a power driver. The problem with that is you might strip out your hole. Because really the only thing we're drilling or screwing into here is about a 1/8 inch sheet of plywood, Luan. You know, it's just really thin. So when you're tightening it too, you just want to go to the point where you feel tension and then stop, because it's, like I said, it's extremely easy to strip that out. And then you'll have to search for a new place to put a screw, drill a new hole in the plastic, drill a new hole in the wood. Alright, one more screw and we'll be all set here. So with all our screws in, I just want to go ahead and reach back here and turn my amplifier on, and our lights lit up. So we know we've got good connections everywhere and we're actually receiving signal, right? Because it's showing signal. And we're hunting for... There we go. Okay. So our lights lit up and we're showing signal. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our handle mounted. Right there, I'm just making sure that it's turning all the way around. Okay, so we've got a nice little screw that goes in through this handle here as well. And if it's not making connection, you may have to drag this down a little bit. There we go. All right. Okay, so with that done, take our little cover here, snap that on, and we're all set on the inside. Okay, so with the inside done, we're going to reuse our screws from the old antenna and mount this plate down. And then once that's done, we'll put our self-leveling caulking on there. So let's screw this on down. Okay, I think that's pretty secure. That's not going to go anywhere. So we're ready for our self-leveling caulk. Want to make sure we've got all the stuff that we don't need in the way out of the way. And then we'll just take this, and like I said, I'm going to run on these bolts here, and I'm going to run also around the edge here because I don't want anything getting in there. I'm going to cover these up to make sure that they're sealed, and then seal up around the edge as well. Okay, and they point this out in the manual, so I want to point it out to you guys too. Be sure to get this coax hump right here sealed. That's so you can bring coax out on the top side if you need to. But they said to be sure to get that sealed, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to seal it up real good here. And this sealant is self-leveling, so you don't have to worry about getting it perfect. You just have to worry about getting it on there and getting a nice coat, and then it'll sort itself out. Alright, let me finish this up and we'll be back.
Alright guys, so there you have it. The King Jack RV antenna with signal finder. Sorry it was so long, but that's how you do it. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Before you leave, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so you get notifications as to when our new videos come out. Then head over to our website, longwindingroads.com. See you next time. Happy travels.